to this episode of Soul of Sky. If you watched the last episode, then you might have just realized that I changed the title, and I sure did. So I just feel like this resonates more. I thought about it some more, and finally I feel like Soul of Sky, that's kind of what's going on here. It's my inner workings in my soul. And I feel like who knows is such a passive thing, and I'm not trying to be passive. So here we are, Soul of Sky. Welcome to this episode. I'm really excited to have you guys here. And, I wanted to start something a little different this episode where I share a story or a moment in my recent week that was meaningful for some reason. So I'm going to share a story and it is meaningful, but at the same time it's kind of a sad one. So sorry to disappoint if you were hoping for something really inspiring. But yesterday I was supposed to be doing a tarot market, and we had some weather changes that were, supposed to be pretty severe, so the market ended up getting postponed. And lately I've been working really hard outside of my job, to try to get myself aligned and get the businesses and the ideas that I've been working towards off the ground. So I've had to really be intentional with my time outside of work, which has been hard because I feel like I'm constantly scheduling myself even when I'm not working, and I don't want to live like that forever, but right now it's kind of, I just have to do it. So that's where I'm at. And so yesterday, that market, I was super excited about it, but of course, the people running it made the best call, which I'm happy, and they were really nice about it. But I was like, oh my gosh, now I just have a ton of free time that opened up, and I don't know what to do with myself because I'm usually scheduled. I usually am okay, I'm going to work on this podcast then, I'm going to go to this market then, I'm going to do blank during this time, and then to have this free time open up, I was like, wow. So lucky me, there was a little pride fest going on right outside my apartment because I live in a downtown area, and I was like, well, I'm going to just go and check that out by myself. And one, I don't want this story to let anybody or stop anybody from doing things alone. I think there is such power in doing things alone, and if you're gonna just wait on people to do stuff with you all the time, what happens when you don't have people, you know what I mean? But I went out and did that, and I've gotten so used to doing stuff alone. It's not even funny. Since I've moved here, I've done so many things alone, and I've always done things alone, but this has been insane. And to walk around and feel okay, this is a community that I'm a part of with pride, but I have nobody here with me. I have nobody. And that's nobody's fault. Nobody has to be with me. But I was just sad. It brought me back to the place that I was referencing in the last episode of feeling so alone. And I guess for some reason I needed to feel that way again in that moment. Or maybe it was a piece of information to remind myself, this is what I'm doing it for. I'm doing this trying to figure my life shit out so that I can have a better experience. I don't always have to feel so alone. And I don't know, that really, really was a hard thing to deal with yesterday. And because I've been so busy, I haven't had that much time to explore and do something that's not necessarily monetized or for my own professional, I guess, gain, or whatever you want to call it, because I'm working on a lot of things personally. I guess they are professionally, so anyway, just ignore that. But yeah, and then I go and do something that is not for a specific gain, and I was so upset. So I don't know. I had that moment yesterday. I was I feel like I need to share this on my podcast. I have no idea why I wanted to share that, but I did. I think it's because I am struggling in that aspect. I told my friend last week, we were talking about our lives and how a lot of my friends around my age are having kind of similar crises, I guess, or just a lot's going on. And this year, I'm 23, and astrologically, don't ask me why, but I know that astrologically 23 is a hard year, and that is the truth for me. So I have lovingly nicknamed this year the year alone. And that's what I told my friend last week. I was like, yeah, this is the year where I have done everything alone, by myself. I faced every emotion. We always have to face our emotions ourselves. Like, that's a major thing. But to be so far away from the people that I feel like mostly know me the best, like away from my family, friends, that has been so hard. So anyway, I just wanted to share that for anybody that might be feeling alone. And I guess to wrap it up, we're never really alone. Spirit is always with us. And I do have a community, and I do have people that care about me. But this year, like, if you've ever had one of those moments in your life where something happens and it brings you right back to an emotion or a time period of your life that was really difficult, like, that's what happened yesterday. And for some reason I needed to experience that, and also felt compelled to share this. So there's not much substance outside of the fact that it's okay to feel things. It's okay to go backwards or feel like you're going backwards and re-experience something. And yesterday I did that. And I wish that I would have gone out there and really felt like amazing, but I didn't. And that's okay. And it's also okay to want companionship. It's also okay to want relationships, and we are social creatures, and let's not forget that. I know that, like, in my own experience as a single person, I have tried to talk myself out of the desire to have a relationship. Oh, I don't really need that. And it's not necessarily a need. It's something that adds to your life. But at the very end of the day, we are social creatures, and it is normal to desire those things. So, I don't know. I just wanted to share that, and I just realized I've been talking 8 minutes about it, so I should probably move on and actually talk about what I came here to talk about on this podcast. And that today is going to be healing, yeah! So I don't know if you've noticed a shift in my energy from last week to this week. I feel a lot less nervous, and there are a lot less ums coming out of my mouth, so I'm pretty happy about that so far. But I really wanted to talk about healing. That is what started my healing. Well, wow. No shit. That is what started my spiritual journey to begin with, because as one does when you start to spiritually awaken, you're like, well, I should probably change some things. I should probably examine why I'm doing X, Y, Z. And for me, healing is such a beautiful process. I love it, even though it's very difficult. But I understand that a lot of people who may be trying to navigate healing, no matter what part you're at, the very beginning, if you just started, or if you're in the middle of something healing right now, and even if you feel like you are an advanced healer, maybe there's something for you here too. But I wanted to start on the very beginning. When you reach that place, and I know for me, actually, why don't I tell that story? So, when I first decided, okay, it's time to heal, I've talked about a little bit of Dark Night of the Soul type beat, and it was after that, it's like when you're starting to pick up the pieces, and there's not actively like shit flying at your head that you're trying to dodge, but you're still like, oh my gosh, I'm scared to get up and move and like restart my life. All I know is I need to pick up the pieces. And I just remember watching this tarot video where the reader was like, you've been blaming, this person for all the reasons things didn't work out, all the toxicity in this because it's a better relationship, of course. Why this didn't work out, why it was unhealthy. Like, you're putting it all on the other person, when really you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror at yourself to see what you are contributing as well in all of that. And I had obviously, nobody's ever, even though it was a video, nobody's ever said anything like that to me remotely. But it was the truth. And I remember watching this video, freaking tears streaming down my face, and just being like, she's right. Everything she's saying, like, she's really giving it to me and putting me in my place. But everything that she is saying is correct. Like, I've been passing the blame and not actually, passing the blame basically to absolve me from looking in the mirror at what I might be doing wrong as well. So she said in that video, it's time to heal. And I was like, okay. Like, I felt this internal click in my body. Like, it is time to open up this new world and see where it goes. And of course, like, when I was like, oh, I want to heal, I genuinely had no clue, not a single clue, on how to even possibly do that. At this point, I was at the very origin of my spiritual journey, like, seriously, the very origin, and I knew nothing. And I was like, I need to heal, but I literally could not tell you how that is even possible. And at that time, I was just starting to meditate a little bit. I think that's really it. All I was doing was meditating and maybe just spending some time outside. Those were my ways to connect with spirit. And I remember I sat down after watching that video and crying my eyes out and said to spirit, I have no idea how I'm going to do this, but I want to heal. So please just show me the way. And if you are at that point, or this is really for anybody who might be in a new journey of healing. It could even be that you've healed yourself and worked on yourself a ton already, but this is something that is just way out of your wheelhouse that you have no idea how to handle. My biggest piece of advice is to just ask spirit to show you the way. Because that's what I did, and I realized, like, with everything, I used to get, well, I don't know what this is called, but I get really nervous about, like, nervous anticipation energy, like when I'm anticipating a change, or like going back to school always used to get me really ramped up, or starting anything new. I would get this anxiety around, like, anticipating it, basically. And then I started to realize, after starting so many new things, that you don't just, like, walk in and know everything. Like, you literally have to walk before you run with everything that you do. Every new job, every new project, every new hobby, idea, working out, like, everything you have to, it's baby steps. And nobody knows exactly what they're doing at the beginning. And so I realized, like, sometimes you can naturally just follow the path. Like, say, okay, I'm at my starting point. I know I need to start. Just show me the way. And usually, if you can't get an answer from spirit, like, if you feel, I've had my issues here and there with feeling like I can hear spirit for some reason. I can, but it's a mental thing. It's a mental block where I feel like, I can't get a message from my higher self. I can't get a message from spirit right now. I feel so blocked. But sometimes it's like the first thing that pops in your head when you say, I want to start this new journey. Where do I start? It's usually the first thing that you're thinking about. The point is that it's not about knowing how to figure everything out. It's not about knowing how to accomplish whatever. It's about starting. And that's the most important thing. Because I guarantee you, if you ask to be shown the way, and then you just are open to be guided by spirit, you're going to figure it out. And you're going to take one step at a time, and it's all going to be okay. So that was the first thing that I really wanted to talk about for beginners. If you're at that place in your life where you are ready to heal, and you've got to be ready. I mean it. Like, we can do some baby healing and stuff, but if you're at that place where you are, like, ready to open up Pandora's box and say, okay, I'm going to do shadow work. I'm going to look at myself in the mirror. I'm going to face the things that about myself that I hate. Sorry, I shouldn't say hate. The things about myself that I really don't like, that type of feeling. And the other piece of advice I have for you is almost like create a, and I don't want to say goal, because it's not really about achieving things. It's about you feeling better and being able to navigate your life and release things that no longer serve you. But like kind of create a plan. Like, okay, so what is the biggest thing right now? Like, what is the biggest healing priority for me? That's where you start. And like I said, asking Spirit to help you start is really important as well. But if you feel like you can't get an answer from Spirit, then you go where you feel like you have the best idea about where to start. And so let's say I'm going to use attachment issues because that was one of the first things that I felt comfortable exploring, because I did have a lot of issues with attachment, and I have had an anxious attachment style, and it was showing up very much so in my relationships with many people. But I had one specific situation that was incredibly difficult to navigate. Those issues came out very strongly, and that's what prompted me to pay attention to it. And ironically, I literally just stumbled across, I don't believe in coincidences, by the way, but I just stumbled across attachment theory one day, basically. And when I think I was trying to, I don't even know what I was trying to Google, probably a symptom of attachment theory, and that's probably why it came up. I was Googling something that I was doing or feeling, and then attachment theory probably popped right up. So I found it, quote unquote, by accident, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. How do I undo this? Because I hate it. Like, I really don't like feeling this way in relationships. It's really not a secure way of navigating relationships, because you're not secure in relationships. But anyway, it's not an enjoyable thing. So, what started it? Where is this coming from? And how do I resolve it? And when you kind of map out what are the things that you want to focus on, and I would strongly encourage you to not bite off more than you can chew. Healing is a journey and a process that we do for forever. It never ends. And I'm going to touch more on that in a little bit, but just taking it one step at a time. Sometimes the first thing you need to do is just feel your feelings and your emotions. So kind of taking a long, hard look and identifying what it is that you need to heal from is just as important as, that's kind of the first step in my mind. And the first step can be different for everybody based on your experience or whatever you're experiencing. And so, if I'm saying things that aren't necessarily resonating and being like, well, that doesn't apply to me, that doesn't apply to me, I always encourage you to take what resonates, leave what doesn't. If something feels right, if you want to start healing and there's something that I have not mentioned that you feel like is going to help you, go for it. Whatever you feel internally guided, tap into that gut feeling, that intuition, and go for it. Just start. You can start. Here's some ideas that may be helpful in terms of if you don't even know what or how to identify what you need to heal from. I have a few things that I've written down: anxiety, avoidance, suppression, escapism, attachment issues, or just reading up on attachment theory in general. It's really interesting. Inner child, anger, and it also could be a specific event or a specific thing that you've underwent. So it may not be something like, I feel like avoidance is a learned behavior, but I'm speaking, sometimes there's things that you have to heal from that are like an ongoing event or something from the past, a situation that has happened to you, which could have brought up some of the other things I reference, but kind of internally being like, okay, what am I struggling to face? And if avoidance is something that you are struggling with, I would say getting to a place where you can feel your emotions. That is really important. And if you're suppressing things and avoiding things, that doesn't mean that they go away. It just means that they are pushed down deeper and deeper into your subconscious, and our subconscious unfortunately does still affect us even if we aren't consciously aware of it. So, and going into your subconscious is, I feel like that's advanced mode. Like, if you can start to identify some of the patterns that you are subconsciously repeating, that is important. But if you're not in that place yet, kind of start with what I addressed. And there is no right or wrong way to heal. I don't believe in that at all. There's not one right place to start. There's not one right place to go. There's not one, it's not a one size fits all thing. So for anybody that's on a healing journey right now, my biggest piece of wisdom is if you are actively trying to heal, you're doing the work and you're doing a good job. That's all you need to know. And I'm proud of you, and people around you are proud of you as well, because when you heal yourself, you help to heal others, and you also help to not bleed all over people who did not hurt you. So, claps for everybody that's on a healing journey right now. I know that it's hard. It's not meant to be hard. I mean, it is meant to be hard, otherwise everybody would be doing it. Let's think about that. So yes, healing is not a one-size-fits-all journey, and if you're unsure about where to start and nothing that I said just resonated and helping you figure that out, I always say to ask if Spirit can show you the way or reveal what it is that you need to focus on. In terms of healing tools, like what do you need? What do you need to heal in order to be successful in healing? And honestly, the answer is just yourself for the most part, and possibly a notebook for journaling or writing things down. And if anyone out there is nervous or scared to start a healing journey, and it's kind of like one of those things where you feel it internally like you need to do it, but you're putting it off, I know that it can be really scary, but it is such a beautiful thing, and it can only help you. Like, I think that's the biggest thing with focusing on getting better and working on yourself, is it literally can only help you. Like, what could possibly go wrong if you are like, I'm gonna heal? You know? Like, what? Well, I will say that when you start to heal and also raise your vibration, there may be people and things that fall out that because they no longer resonate with the frequency that you're at. So you may lose some friends, but that's nothing to be afraid of. And as hard as healing can be, it is so worth it. So what I was getting at with healing tools is you don't need anything fancy. I don't see any kind of media that makes it seem like, oh, you need to have this, this, and this. But I think looking on the internet, from people who, I see videos all the time on TikTok of, here's how you heal this, here's how you do this, here's how you heal your gut health, here's how you blah, blah, blah. And then they don't really give, in my opinion, they don't really give helpful tools. Or sometimes people, especially on spiritual TikTok, will show like all the beautiful parts of spirituality and not talk about the hard ones or the like reality. Because odds are you're not going to be happy and smiling every single day. Nobody is, healed or unhealed. But definitely when you're on a healing journey, it's not like loving like 24/7. So, and that's not to put anybody off, but it's just the truth. And like, you don't need anything fancy. You just need yourself. Seriously. you don't need anything fancy, but there are some tools and things that I've brainstormed that are a little bit helpful, I hope, in like ways that you can start. If you've had a really difficult time recently, maybe you've been under a lot of stress, you've been dealing with something really difficult in your personal life, and you're feeling kind of all out of sorts, you're either starting your healing journey or coming back to your healing journey, I think something that's really important that I haven't seen too many people talk about, so correct me if somebody has, but checking in with your body, because that mind and body connection is no freaking joke, and the body does keep the score. I'm currently reading that book. I've been reading it for a freaking year because it's a long book. The font is so tiny, but it's such a good book. But like the body does keep the score, and like I didn't realize how much trauma and energy I was storing in my body that I needed to let go of until I started my healing journey. I realized that I was holding so much tension in my jaw, in my shoulders, and other places of my body, like sitting down and like clenching and being, all like this, when really we're supposed to relax. And I had no idea that I was storing all of that until I started my healing journey. And the way that I learned that was through yoga. So if you need a place to start, I think yoga is such a great way to help you heal, especially if meditating is something that you struggle with, because the mind can be really pesky sometimes, especially in the beginning. And some people, like, I always encourage people, if you're starting to meditate, to just keep pushing through. Even if you can only do 3 minutes, even if you can do 30 seconds, like, just keep pushing through and stick to it consistently, because it will get better. And once you like punch through that wall, like once you break the ceiling and get to the next level where you're starting to observe your thoughts a little bit better, and you're starting to be more present in your body and feeling the things that come up, but then just letting them float off and go, like that's where the happy place is. And the I don't know, that's where the place that people like brag on meditating, that's where it is. But you've got to stick to it. But if you're struggling and you're like, meditating is just not for me right now, I think yoga is such a great place to begin, because you just need your body. And like, if you don't even know where to start with yoga, I would 100% recommend Yoga with Adriene on YouTube. She is amazing. Like, she's got tons of videos for everything, back pain, like winding down, releasing. She's got 30 days of yoga that she does, I think, every year, and where you can stick to it every day. And that's where I realized, is when I started doing yoga, how much I was holding on to. And yoga gets you present in the moment, because it requires you, like, you're doing so many things. Like, I mean, seriously, yoga is no joke, especially when you first start. It's not easy. You've got so much going on. Like, you're focusing on your breathing. You're also focusing on what you're doing with your body and trying to listen or watch your instructor. And it gets you super present in your body. If you're somebody that can't meditate or struggles pretty strongly with, or pretty heavily with, like, racing thoughts, yoga. Boom. And if you don't have a mat, I think mats these days, even if you want to get a cheap one, I think they have them at Five Below. They've got them at TJ Maxx and Marshalls. But if that's not an option, a towel or a carpet or rug, you don't even necessarily need a mat. Just as long as you can, like, have a computer, phone, or TV to watch a video, you can start yoga. Hopefully that was helpful, or you can go to a studio if you have access to that as well. Another beautiful thing is walking. Being outside in nature, it's just so underrated, in my opinion. And maybe that's just me. Maybe y'all already know this secret, but it is just so underrated to be out with the planet, with fresh air, like if you can go to a park, touch a tree, sit down on the grass, like, oh gosh, it's so beautiful. But walking is another great way of getting yourself connected. So even if you are wanting to start a healing journey, but you may not even be ready to dive into like the super emotional triggering things, getting you to the place where you can is just as important. So if that does mean reconnecting with your mind and body, working out, yoga, walking can help you be more present in your body. So yes, I think if I have not made it clear, being present is such an important thing, and especially when you heal. So I talked about avoidance, I talked about escapism, or I mentioned those as potential things that you might be dealing with, and I deal with that quite a bit. I am not avoidant, but I definitely participate in some escapism. So when you recognize that you're doing that, or you recognize that, oh, I'm being avoidant right now, okay, let's just pause. I'm going to acknowledge that, and I may not know how to fix it, but sometimes like half the battle is just acknowledging what you're struggling to quote unquote fix. Not that anybody needs fixing, but you know what I mean, like to unlearn and heal. So identify kind of from the list, and if I didn't name something that you're struggling with, identify what might be step one in getting you to acknowledge some of these things or to get you to the place where you can heal. So yeah, I think mind to body connection is crucial in healing. I don't know, I also am probably a little bit biased because of my own journey, but that's where I started. Like, as much as healing is of the mind, I guess, and the emotional bodies, and even the spiritual bodies, it's also of the physical body as well. And I found that when I started to really work on trauma and release things and unlearn things, I started to also notice a very distinct improvement in my physical health as well. So it's all related, which is so crazy. Okay, so backtracking a little bit because I struggle with verbalizing lists. Find what works for you. If it's yoga, walking, just finding a way to be present in the moment and in your body. Meditating, journaling is another thing. Sitting with your emotions and feelings, going outside, breath work, all of those are things that you can do with little to no external tools to help you be successful in healing. Really identifying what your body, your mind needs in order to heal is very important. So listen to your internal voice, listen to your intuition. If something feels right, if you're like, I just need to sit down and journal, I just need to sit down and like just talk, like, oh my gosh, I literally, first of all, I'm talking to a camera right now, but before I did this, I would talk to myself, I would talk to spirit, I would talk to the mirror, anything in order to get out what I needed to get out. And that's kind of it for like tools for healing. You don't need that much, and you just need yourself and a little bit of intention, and the rest is, you can do it. Another thing that if you are a little bit more advanced on your healing journey that I would recommend is Reiki. So Reiki, and I should have looked up a little bit and done some more research on this, but just from my own knowledge of Reiki, it is purely channeling divine light. It cannot hurt you, it cannot hurt anybody. And so I got my first Reiki attunement, I think in 2020, or maybe 2021, early 2021. So it's been a while, at least a year and a half since I got that. And that first level attunement is just for you to channel that energy for yourself and for like your friends and family, not at a practitioner level. And I was able to do that with, I've talked about her last time. Her name is Charlotte. She's Happy Twins 1111 on YouTube. She has a website, and she is a Reiki master, and she attuned me along with many other people to be at the first level attunement of Reiki. And that is something that if you are looking for kind of like a next step, maybe you've worked a lot with yoga, maybe the things that I'm saying are not resonating, you're a step above. I think Reiki is such a great like next step for somebody who's more an intermediate healing journey, because one, it's so powerful to experience, and the Reiki class that I did was pretty affordable, so I think it was like $40, which is honestly pretty affordable for something that you can use on yourself any day at any time in any moment. So if you've kind of mastered some of the things that I've already talked about and looking for something else, I think Reiki is a great next step. And I don't know, Reiki is really cool because you feel the energy flowing when you are doing it to yourself. You feel the energy flowing, and that's really fucking cool. Oh man, y'all got me tired. Last week I was supposed to do a little mini reading in the middle. That was my initial idea for a podcast. Is I am a tarot reader. I have little bits and pieces of wisdom and knowledge from, I think, many different teachings. Like I said in the last episode, I'm a master by no means, but I wanted to do a little tarot reading to kind of switch it up. I don't know any podcasts that do that. Maybe you guys do, and I'm not really that special or cool for thinking of that. ASMR. This is I think it's the Paulina, yep, the Paulina Tarot deck. It's really beautiful. I guess I should not talk while I'm shuffling. Alright. Almost ready. Okay. So I'm going to just start with, what do we need to know right now? Spirit, what collective message do I need to share today about healing? Because that is what we're talking about after all. Got the Ten of Wands, the Knight of Swords, Two of Swords, Temperance, the Ten of Swords, the Knight of Cups, King of Cups, and the Knight of Pentacles. So for those of you watching this is not necessarily beginner healing energy. I would say this is more of you've been working towards ending something already, and you're kind of on its last leg of this journey. So if there's something that you've been holding on to, it's time to let go. So this is closing. The Ten of Wands and the Ten of Swords is completing a pretty powerful cycle, I would say. So if you're resisting that, and that's another thing, then this is why I defer to Spirit to bring these things up, because I can't always remember things very well. Resisting healing and resisting change is something that I think is natural for us to do. We don't want to change, but I want to say that we are adaptable beings, and if you're afraid of letting something go, but you know it's time, get to a place where you can take that leap of faith and let it go, because you would be very surprised at what can come from that by just hands off and releasing. And that's kind of the energy that is being brought up today. It's like something is ready to end, you need to let it end. And something that my therapist told me that has stuck with me since she said it is move or be moved. Sometimes the energy in the universe is going to do something anyway. You might as well be willing to go with and not have it drag you. Like, we're going, you know what I mean? Like, you might as well go with it rather than resist. Knight of Swords and the Knight of Cups. So, okay. The mind is not the most reliable narrator. Sometimes our minds can run in circles and really get us worked up and believe things that are not necessarily the truth. Getting to a place where you can balance your mind and your intuition is a skill that I have not quite mastered yet, but I've gotten better at it. And so sometimes when you are going through those moments where your mind is running crazy, telling you all these things, and you feel like you can't control it, just take a breath and remind yourself that your mind is not always telling you the truth. Because it's not the most reliable narrator. I got that from another podcast, which I don't remember the name, but she's awesome. If I can remember it, I'll tell you. And when you're going on a healing journey as well, so this is another message. When you're going on a healing journey, it's not always about figuring it out, if that makes sense. Like, with the Knight of Swords being about the mental body and the Knight of Cups being about the emotional body, if you're trying to heal, you need to tap into those emotions, and you don't always have to explain what you're feeling. And for those who are really, like, logical, like, you've got to get to the place where you can just feel, even if you're just feeling to let it go. And you don't need to talk yourself out of doing that. So if that's something that you have caught yourself doing, like, say, I don't know, you need to cry, you need to let something else, an emotion, or face an emotion, and you kind of talk yourself out of it, or justify, or try to just don't think about it too hard. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this message out, but, like, just stop thinking about it so hard. Sometimes the simple answer is just to follow your emotions. And for some of us, it's really easy, and for some of us, it's not. And so this is more for the people who struggle with that. Sometimes you just have to feel. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. Like, your feelings are just valid. And sometimes you can just feel them and not have to elaborate. Okay? To yourself. But yes, so just feel your feelings. Sometimes that is the answer. And another thing that when I first started healing, I had to work with myself on and spirit on is sometimes healing does not require this intense action. I think when we want to fix things or when we want to change things, we, like, at least for me, there's this, I want to do something. I want to, like, you know, if I want to change my body, I'm going to go work out, and I'm going to lift, and I'm going to do an action. And sometimes healing work is not a major action. It is just staying still sometimes. And that's my refrigerator, if you're hearing that. So sometimes the action is just to be still. There is action and inaction at times. Just a little tidbit. We've got the Two of Swords and the King of Cups. Alright, I'm going to clarify this because, oops, I hit the mic. Eight of Pentacles. This could mean different things for different people. So if you're already doing the work, sometimes we can start doing the work and it seems easy. Like, the natural thing is to let all of your emotions out and to face your feelings, or whatever that means to you. Whatever is your most natural response to healing. But taking it a step deeper is something different altogether. Anybody can most people can examine the very surface level feelings and emotions that we have. But going a step deeper is hard. And like with this Two of Swords, it's kind of like you don't feel like you can do it, but you can. You have all of the tools, and God forbid, I really hope I said something on this piece of paper that was somewhat helpful, like gave you any idea of where to start if you're not really sure where to start. But you can do it. Like, I know that sometimes these things can feel so daunting and so hard to figure it out, but I think that's kind of like the catch in all of this. Is it's not about figuring it out. Nobody figures out how to heal everything. You just don't. Healing never ends. But if you never try, you'll never know what might happen if you do it. Like, what might get better. Your relationship's getting better. The way that you feel about yourself getting better. Your mental health getting better. You will never know unless you dive deep and you go. So if you're at a crossroads and you want to take it a step further, this is your sign to do it. And for some of you, this means just starting your healing journey altogether. But for others, I think this means going the extra mile. And you've already been healing. You've done a lot of work, but it's kind of like, oh, do I want to go deeper in here? You do. Specifically with inner child. And I remember when I first decided I wanted to do inner child work, and I would like try to look it up and see what that meant, or like how to do it. And then I would find these videos on TikTok where like I just didn't feel like people were just giving such broad surface level explanations of how to do it, and it just was not resonating with me. So first of all, understand if you are having that experience, even as you're watching this and I'm saying things and you're like, that Sky, that's great, but you're not really answering my question, you're not really helping me. You have the right to create the way that you heal, by the way. So if you are like trying to do something with your inner child and you don't know what to do, find one thing that you can think of that would serve your inner child and figure out a way to incorporate that so you can release or get back into that, like tap into that energy. A lot of people talk about like carrying a photo of themselves when they were younger. I think that's great. I think like if you have an altar or a mirror somewhere and you can put a little photo of yourself, your younger self, there, I think that can be really helpful to remind you like, hey, this is the girl that you're doing all this for. And what did she need? Like when she was younger that wasn't given to her, that you can give to yourself right now. Giving your younger self what he or she needs or what they need now. Sometimes that seems like such an easy, simple thing to say and feels way harder. But that's the key, is tapping into your inner child and like meeting her. I keep saying her because I'm talking about myself. Meeting their needs, okay? To me, that's the biggest thing about inner child work. So if nobody's ever said that to you, or hopefully that's helpful. But just like figuring out what that version of yourself didn't have. Step one. So if your inner child did not have unconditional love, there you go. If your inner child, struggled with stability or did not have certain needs met, like you name it, like a certain physical need, an emotional need, anything else. Identify that. That's step one. That's half the battle. And I'm going to use myself as an example because I'm kind of drawing blanks here. But for me, unconditional love was definitely a part of that. I also needed support for me being authentic. Like the things that I felt very drawn to that I now have talked about in my last episode, about that being like the most genuine passions that I have, slash, what I think is supposed to be my life work. Like lifting myself up and supporting myself for wanting to pursue those things and loving those things. My inner child everything felt out of control. And this is a little bit of a different example. Like, as a child, obviously, we aren't in full control of our lives, but there were a lot of things in my childhood that I just felt like were out of my control. And so that later has manifested in my life with having issues with control and wanting to be in control of situations. And eventually I figured out that a lot of my anxiety stems from control. So when I feel like I don't have control of a situation, I get extremely anxious. And that all stems from my inner child. So hopefully these examples are giving like a little bit more depth than some of the BS that I see on the internet. And like, sorry, I'm just channeling my own frustration. But yeah, like sometimes I would look at things on my healing journey and be like, yeah, that's great, but that did not help me at all. So, and also if you're feeling that way, I think that's got to be normal, because like that's what I experienced. I could not get like a video or that's not true. I had a lot of help and support and divine guidance to certain videos, but sometimes when you're seeking out answers and not getting them, sometimes that's the answer too, is you need to look within yourself. You know the right answer. Isn't that right, Spirit? Yeah. But anyway, so if you're afraid of going a little bit deeper, and specifically into inner child work, you can do this. You've got this. And like, I don't know. Healing is not easy, but the way it feels to release something, there's just nothing like it. Oh God, there's just nothing like it. And if your inner child is something that you've been kind of putting off because out of fear of what that might bring up, I totally understand that, and your feelings are valid. But being able to look, and it's going to be hard to go in there and to examine and to bring up those emotions, but being able to get to a place where you can like come to terms with it, where you can embrace your inner child, where you can even release some of the things that happened to you in your childhood, that is a possibility, and that's such a beautiful thing. So yes, it may be difficult, but you can do it. And it's not in vain. Like, your healing and what you're doing is not in vain. It does serve a purpose for yourself more than anything too. And then to wrap this up, we've got Temperance and the Knight of Pentacles. Temperance is such a beautiful card about grounding yourself, and you can't give from an empty cup. So if you're at a place where you need to take some time for yourself, do it. Because like I said, you cannot give from an empty cup. And if you're always trying to help other people, if you're always trying to, and maybe that's the thing, is you're distracting yourself and going off and doing other things, like schedule out some time for you to just be with yourself so that you can fill your cup back up. And with the Knight of Pentacles here, we got all the knights. So this really is about starting. So start the journey. Come on, let's start. Let's just start. So to wrap this little spread up, slow growth is still growth. If you are looking to heal in a matter of days, weeks, years, That's not going to happen. You cannot put a time limit on your healing journey. You just can't. And it's just as simple as that. So it will happen when it needs to happen. The important part is that you are moving in the right direction and that you are healing. This is not something that happens overnight. So some of you may know that already, but if you've never embarked on a journey like this, I don't think that's necessarily like, duh. Well, maybe when I said it, you're like, duh, but sometimes you just like need to hear somebody say it. Yeah, like it's a slow process. So if you've been working and it's like, golly, like it's taken forever, yeah, it does like to do that. But celebrate the little victories and the big victories, and sometimes the little victories are the big ones. So I kind of want to do I have these cards where I have messages on them that I wrote, just to get some messages out that maybe I didn't hit on already. Some reinforcements. All right. Trust in divine timing. That also means with healing. You will heal things when you are meant to. This will pass. I wish you believed in yourself the way we believe in you. You are the co-creator of your reality. And forgive yourself for your mistakes. So again, with the trust in divine timing, that plays into what I just was talking about, that things will release themselves when they are meant to. And going back to that first little tidbit I talked about in the reading portion of this podcast, where I said, move or be moved. Sometimes you may be feeling like you're at the end of a chapter, but it hasn't quite closed yet. And just trust with spirit that it's going to end itself in divine timing. This will pass. I think this is just a reminder that when we have really strong emotions come up, they're not infinite. Like, you are not going to feel that way all the time. And getting to the place even where you can like recognize, okay, I'm feeling something very, very triggering right now. This is really hard for me to deal with. But guess what? It's temporary. And by feeling it, you are allowing yourself the space and the grace to release it as well. So feel your feelings, and they will pass. Even if they come back later, even if they circle around, and they will pass, Like, sometimes we have to keep feeling things, and like, when am I ever going to stop feeling like this? Trust that it will end when it's meant to end. I wish you believed in yourself the way we believe in you. I feel like that's just enough said. And this came up over the Two of Swords and the King of Cups, where I talked about going deeper in your healing journey. You can heal, and if you felt like you've been blocked from healing, or it just doesn't feel possible, maybe that's it, you can do it. And I believe in you, Spirit believes in you, and maybe limiting beliefs is something that you're struggling with, like, I'm never going to be able to accomplish this, I'm never going to be able to do this. You can. Just got to trust and believe in yourself. You're the co-creator of your reality. Manifest, manifest, manifest. Even manifesting, like releasing things. I do this all the time. I release everything that's no longer serving me. I release blank. I let go of blank. Anything that is not of my highest good is removed immediately. Don't be surprised though when things go away. So just keep that in mind. And then forgive yourself for your mistakes. And I didn't really touch a lot on this topic in this video, but this is such an important point that I'm glad Spirit brought up. Forgiveness. If you went through a difficult time, you did something wrong, you are starting to heal, and you look back and think, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I did that. I'm so awful and blank and blank and blank. Terrible, disgusting, whatever. Forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself for the things that you aren't proud of, and like things that you deem as mistakes. And in this card it says forgive yourself for your mistakes, and the mistakes are in quotation marks. Gotta do it. Like, unconditional love is such an important piece of this journey, and I think that's kind of how I want to wrap this up, because that was mostly what the first part of my healing journey was. It was about learning how to love myself unconditionally, because I wanted love from external sources, from a relationship and validation from people. And what I've realized is that I was not giving some of those things to myself. And I'm a firm believer in you cannot love somebody unconditionally before you love yourself that way first, because we meet people where we are. And likewise, like people meet us where they are too. So if you haven't gone deep enough to heal, to unlearn things, to learn how to love yourself the way that you want to be loved by somebody else, you know, I don't want to say you shouldn't expect somebody to love you that way, but shouldn't. If you really feel like you deserve it, shouldn't you give it to yourself too, you know? So, and that goes hand in hand with forgiving yourself for your mistakes, because like I used to hold this shame for certain things. You know, you remember something and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so shameful that I did that or said that or was that kind of person, whatever. And think about the people that you love the most in your life, your friends, family, partner, whoever, your dog even. And when they made mistakes, I would hope that you move past them and forgive them, because you love them. And you can give that to yourself as well, and you should give that to yourself. Like shame and embarrassment and those kind of things, as much as I think every emotion that we feel and experience is important in some aspect, holding on to those things does not serve you. So maybe the first step, and this is coming out at the very end of this video, but maybe the first step is really forgiving yourself and letting go of shame. But yeah, so to wrap this whole thing up, take it one day at a time. Healing is not linear. I love to say that. And if you just think about any graph that's not linear. Linear is like this, if you're not sure. And I'm just showing a straight line basically. But a nonlinear graph is going to be all over the place, and when you're healing, you may go up, you may go down, you may go back, you may go this way, you may go blah, blah, blah. Like, healing is not in a straight line, and so when you are going through this and you feel like you're quote-unquote backtracking or going, like, not making any progress, just remember that. And sometimes we think we heal things and something else comes up that brings that right back up. And that is absolutely valid too. That doesn't mean you're not making progress. Sometimes there's just, you let it go and there's a little bit more left in the tank and you gotta let it go again. And lastly, it's a race, not a marathon. Healing is a never-ending process. So you might as well take it one day at a time, take your time, and you are never going to be perfect. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. You don't need to be healed, fully healed, to be worthy of good things, i.e. love, unconditional love. You don't. So anyway, I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching this episode of Soul of Sky. Hopefully it's getting better, even though my audio cut out, but it's okay. I love you, and if you want to follow me on social media, my Instagram is Tarot by Sky Shoe. My personal is at Skylar Shuford. My TikToks are Tarot by Sky Shoe or Fits by Sky Shoe. And my website is www.tarotbyskyshoe.com if you'd like to book a reading. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next week. Mwah!